Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. It's a salty Saturday. How you doing? Made it through the week. We're letting our hair down. Don't have to do anything important today. Just laughing at folks that require it. Allowing ourselves to be angry, allowing ourselves to be mirthful, and all the other things you gotta be sometimes when you're a human being. How are you doing? How's the wicked community doing? Let's look at the Senate, the anti-corporatists. By the way, Jake, I just forwarded you that video. Oh, excellent. That's a good start. That's a good start to the night. Fertilizing the oceans with rust. Interesting. We have a quick gander. All right. Beautiful. Let's have a look at that at the end. I got kind of a through line to start, but I want to look at that on this stream. Let's have a look at it tonight. Thank you, anti-corporatist. Man, I don't know how, but it was letting me watch it at 1.5 times speed. Fair enough. I may do that. The one about seeding oceans with iron oxide to stimulate algal, I can never say it. The growth of algae. There we go. Yes, and we need this badly because a huge chunk of the carbon processing done by the Earth is done simply on the ocean. Oh, wireless Mike, good to see you. Christy Zolkowski, hello. Everybody joining us, good to see you, y'all. We got a lot to talk about. Let's dive into it. Here's the long and the short of it, y'all. Trump has been getting his ass whipped by the court system this whole week, and it's been killing me because I feel like it would be bad form to spend too much time on it during the week. Because y'all did already what needs to be done regarding Trump in court. There's no point in throwing it at you over and over. But, god damn, do I want to enjoy it. And finally, the establishment that if you're a lefty, you will have noted, has been firmly against us for the entirety of our existence. Simply for our existence. In order to protect itself, it's now having to treat Trump like a... Hold on, I put up notes somewhere with this. What do they call these? Treat Trump like a normal person. I'm seeing the kind of discussions being had with this guy that are had in, normal courtrooms. Defendant makes a ridiculous request. The judge says, that's a ridiculous request. Don't waste my time. Here's what we're doing. Blah, 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 blah. Ooh, it's good to see. Oh, it is fantastic to see. We're going to start it off with a suggestion from Foxy, who sent this in a little bit ago. I think just about as soon as it came out, and I haven't had a look. I saw the basic topic, so we're gonna record this, but I'll give you my genuine reaction. Give me a second to warm this up. Oh, there we go. Turns out Trump is not able to get away with quite as much as he used to. There's a little network that we play from time to time on this show. It's called Midas Touch, and our man Michael Popak. Ooh, lordy Lou, he's tearing into Trump something fierce, because the judge in this newest court order, as read to us, interpreted for us by the expert Michael Popak, the judge is not putting up with with Trump's nonsense, and the judge is recognizing the fact that this guy is an actual threat. Let's get to it.
This is Michael Popak, Legal AF. Did you hear the one about the federal judge in the District of Columbia that believes that Donald Trump is a flight risk and used that as the grounds to make sure that when she issued a search warrant to get his Twitter account, that Twitter didn't tell Donald Trump back in January that they had to turn over all of his Twitter data, including who's posting and when and how they're posting and the timing of the posting and the device they're using to post and all of that. Did you know that? Well, I didn't, and nobody did until Twitter decided in its infinite wisdom to appeal that same federal judge, chief judge at the time, Beryl Howell. She issued a sanction of $350,000 against a foot-dragging Twitter who didn't want to turn over Donald Trump's account or his data or comply with the non-disclosure order that was issued as part of the Storage Communications Act.
As the kids would say, let's go! Or let's fail to go, because, yeah, that dude's a flight risk. This is one of those things where people in other countries are like, "Oi, mate, you do know he's pals with Russia then, right? Well, you know he's pals with Russia. You know you're about to charge him with treason. You know Dick Van Dyke did the most accurate British accent I've ever heard." But turned Australian. Sorry about that, Diana. Yeah, the point is they're looking at us and they're saying, "Oi, mate, why is this guy allowed to walk around?" Well, good to know that the courts have acknowledged the fact that he might boogie when things are looking real bad. If he starts to slip in the polls to the point where he's like consistently getting 5-7%, if he this is the kind of thing that will only happen if he screws up. Like if he snaps and starts yelling at the audience because the pressure of the legal situation is getting to him. In fact, hell, it's Salty Saturday. I'm gonna take my damn time, let my hair down a little bit. If he drops in the polls combined, it doesn't need to be specific. Two bad things happen at once, and his tiny brain can't process it. And he has an emotional outburst and turns his ire on the audience. If that happens, and he just starts losing people, he says something that's like an insult to them, and they take it personal, and that spreads through the community, he is absolutely going to try to run before the trial happens, before it happens proper. I don't know why I loosened that tie, by God. Not more comfortable for me. It's more comfortable if I tighten it up. The point is, I'm glad to see he's being taken seriously. I don't think there's anything wrong necessarily with not letting us all know that he was being taken seriously. Really, we just wanted to make sure the crimes were being prosecuted. Trump actually winding up in prison is almost secondary to it. It's more a question of just, are we going to deal with the goddamn coup? Are we going to deal with the fact that he is a sex pest? Are we, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Popak, give us the breakdown.
Which is what the statute is that governs how the Department of Justice gets stored information about social media accounts. And they followed that statute to a T, and so did the judge. And the judge said, you got to turn it over and you got to abide by my non-disclosure order. Don't tell Donald Trump. And one of the grounds that she found, Beryl Howell, that we just learned about because it was mentioned in the appeal order that just came down, which I'm going to read to you. Right in a footnote, it said that the judge made a finding that Donald Trump was a potential flight risk, and therefore as a potential flight risk as one of the many grounds, including keeping it secret, potential destruction of evidence by Donald Trump, witness intimidation by Donald Trump, and all the other things. But the takeaway from this hot take is Beryl Howell also found that he could be, Donald Trump, a potential flight risk. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, I know that name, Beryl Howell. Where'd that come up with Donald Trump? Right. She's the chief judge at the time, anyway, that was responsible for all of the grand jury activity, secret, that Jack Smith was conducting against Donald Trump. It's now another D.C. Circuit Court judge, who's now the chief judge, Jeb Boasberg. But at the time, it was Beryl Howell. And Beryl...
It's rare that I get news so good I get the wiggles. But not these days, folks. It's been a real good week. Good God almighty.
Howell also made another finding against Donald Trump. About 8 months ago, she found that it was more likely than not that Donald Trump committed a crime or a fraud, and she used that finding to strip away his assertion of attorney-client privilege and force his lawyer at Mar-a-Lago to testify to the grand jury without any privilege at all. He was just naked having to testify. And he had to turn over 50 pages of attorney notes reflecting his deepest, darkest secrets in his conversations with his client, including that the client, Donald Trump, tried to convince him to obstruct justice and destroy evidence and rip up classified documents and destroy them and hide them from the Department of Justice and the FBI. It's all reflected in 50 pages of single-spaced notes by Evan Corcoran. So this is the same judge, right? The same judge who 8 months ago said, I think Donald Trump more likely than not committed a crime or fraud. Now she thinks he's a flight risk. Now, we didn't know about this. If we did, we would have brought it to you on the...
Whoop his ass. Whoop his ass, Beryl Howell. Hell yes. Oh, just keep it
Midas
going.
Touch Network, when it happened, we just found out about it because, and I'm going to read it to you, parts of it anyway, a 3-judge appellate court after Twitter appealed because they got nailed for...
Read it to me, you politics nerd with your big, dumb, black-rimmed glasses. No, not that one. The other one that works for the Midas Touch Network.
$350,000 fine because they were 3 days late in complying with the search warrant, and the judge was having none of it. Don't play with a federal judge. Let me just tell you that after 32 years of practicing law. Don't play with a federal judge, especially one that's on grand juries in a criminal investigation of Donald Trump. Okay? And so you're going to get fined. And they didn't like the fine. And they thought it abridged their First Amendment rights. And they wanted to be able to tell Donald Trump at the time about the fact that they got hit with a search warrant and all of that. And so that went to an appeal. And who is the 3-judge panel out of all the dozen or more judges on the D.C. Court of Appeals? It came up an Obama appointee and 2 Biden appointees. That's it. Obama, Biden. You know where this is going. And the judge that wrote the order, Judge Pan, a Biden appointee, wrote it for a unanimous court. One of the other judges on there was Michelle Childs, who was shortlisted for the Supreme Court position for Joe Biden that eventually went to Ketanji Brown Jackson. So this is a very august body. This is a very smart group of people. They've been handling a lot of Jan 6 things and in favor flavor of justice. And the ruling here is they noted in a footnote, we're going to put it up here, and I'm going to read to it, that Judge Howell had relied in part on a finding that that Donald Trump could be a flight risk. And this is in footnote 2. We'll put it up on the screen, and I'm going to read it verbatim. This is from Judge Pan writing for the unanimous court at the D.C. Circuit.
I chose a poor time to cut in. I'm going to go back to this question. Question for the audience, especially the anti-corporatists: Was Pol Pot the fella that was calling himself the last king of Scotland? There's a through line there for Trump's mother that I haven't quite worked out. I'm just trying to get all my my ducks in a row for a childish insult. Let me know.
Court that just came out in the last couple of days. The district court, that's Beryl Howell, judge at the time, Chief Judge Beryl Howell, also found reason to believe that the former president would, quote, flee from prosecution, close quote. That is exactly what it sounds like. Coward Donald Trump fleeing from prosecution. That's why you can't let Twitter tell him about it. And that they cite to the record in the case, which is what appellate courts do. Judge Pan goes on to say, the government later acknowledged, however, that it had errantly included flight from prosecution as a predicate in its application. That means the government shouldn't have checked that box. But even though, and they're willing to withdraw that as the grounds, and then the order goes on to say the district court did not rely on risk of flight in its ultimate analysis. But they went out of their way, Judge Pan, in the appellate decision, to say that the judge, it wasn't that the Department of Justice and Jack Smith removed that as grounds and it wasn't even considered by the lower court, the district court judge. It was considered by the district court judge, and she actually found that he was a potential flight risk. And how does she know that? Because she's been listening to, in secret, because we don't know all about it until things like this happen, to all of the testimony about Jan 6th and the grand juries Jack Smith's been running. And she's had all the arguments in front of her from all of the lawyers who don't want to give up their attorney-client privilege. Or
amazing. Amazing. What else does that tell us? That tells us a hell of a lot about what the judges think Trump's odds are of walking away with this thing. Just in terms of practical matters. I also would like to note that there is a special joy I have been taking in watching ne'er-do-wells who have spent their careers profiting off of misdeeds, legal or otherwise. Watching them encounter the court system, properly encounter the court system, it has been absolutely fascinating to watch them struggle in a scenario where the rules are required to be applied fairly. You know how, like, Elon Musk seemed like a genius until he started doing everything very publicly, and then he just seemed like a dingbat with a big bank account. Similarly, Trump's not really a 4D chess guy, is he? He's when you got Twitter fighting this thing in court, just never understanding what discovery is. When you've got Trump getting sued for lying about E. Jean Carroll because he did sexually violate her. A court found he did it. And he lied about it. And she sued him, took him to court. He was found to have sexually violated the writer E. Jean Carroll, for God's sake. Goes out and lies again, gets in trouble again. Judge says, okay, look, you lied multiple times before. We have another court case lined up still to talk about this, the various ways you hurt this woman, and you just did it again. We're going to factor that in. It's been delightful. Watch it, listening to them talk about this guy, like, you know, realistically. He's got paper mache. He's got a paper mache thin case, and it's damp. And my point is, it doesn't hold much weight. And yeah, he's likely to it's damp and it's poorly dyed. He's likely to break and run. I mean, this guy, he's not. It's not looking too good. It's reasonable to suggest he's a flight risk. I love that new information, including the details. I mean, it's stuff we basically assumed, but it's, like that clip that the anti-corporatist was trying to show me, and you guys eventually showed me yesterday. It was good to see some confirmation of things we had basically assumed. Nice. Oh, we gonna keep it going, folks. We have a lot of court developments for Mr. Trump. And frankly, it's a lot of it's in a similar note, but this is a little more related to J6. We'll get to that in a moment. I would like to talk. Idi Amin, says the Mike Stead Show. Thank you, not Pol Pot. You're right. I got excited. But yeah, let's hang out with y'all for a second. I want to see what y'all have to say about this. It's been a good one. Yes, the Mike Stead Show helped me out with that piece of history there. Yeah, Idi Amin was the guy that said he was the last king of Scotland. I don't quite know what the through line is for a joke. There's just these facts that are sitting on the table, and somebody who's like a proper comedian could probably do it, and not simply an immature political commentator. But there's Trump wants to be a dictator. Idi Amin was an authoritarian dictator. Trump's mom is from Scotland. Trump has golf courses in Scotland. Idi Amin called himself the last king of Scotland. Maybe there's something there. There's a through line. It's possible. All I'm saying is that it's entirely possible that Trump and Idi Amin are somehow the same guy. I don't know. Now there's that. See, there's like 2/3 of a joke. It'd be too easy to say secret affair. That's too obvious in politics. There has to be like a third insane note. Matilda won. Metal. Oh my God, yeah, Metal one. I like that. The sad part is Trump is not going to face much. The problem is Fred Trump is such a monster. This is why that joke doesn't work. The paternity joke doesn't work. Fred Trump is such a monster that he's as bad as Idi Amin. It doesn't get funnier if Idi Amin was Trump's father, so you have to find something else to relate him. The sad part is Trump is not going to face much consequences. Even if he does get found guilty, he will still have to have his fans and sympathizers and will still get to run for political office. That is a fair point. Let's talk about that for a second. Huh? A little jumping off from there. Here's a bummer about the American justice system. And I suspect if you're watching from around the world, educate me a little bit here. Let me know if you think this is true in your country. There's a hell of a lot more politics in our court system than we like to acknowledge. Will Trump face jail time? That will really depend on the mood of the country. If you guys are out there talking like, well, we all know Trump's just going to get house arrest, but the important thing is blah, 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 blah. I kind of did that in this very show. I should be clear. If handled properly, in my ideal world, Trump spends the rest of his life in prison. He eats poorly, and he's an octogenarian. These are lengthy sentences he would get. And let's be honest, January 6th, folks, that's proper treason. All right, maybe I'm not using the right term here. I don't think that's wrong. But whatever. That's a betrayal of the country. That's a betrayal of the democratic process. That's as serious as it gets. So I think it's ideal that he spend the rest of his life in prison. But if we get to a point where the country just seems to accept that he's going to get a light punishment and we're okay with that, that's exactly what will happen. If people, however, those in charge of punishing this guy, look outside their doors and see us champing at the bit, they're going to treat him fairly, by which I mean harshly. I think maybe the sneakiest thing a lefty could do right now is get out there and I don't recommend we do this because I'm just spitballing with y'all tonight. But my first thoughts. Sneakiest thing a lefty could do is get out there and start saying lefties don't believe in the death penalty. No death penalty for Trump. Implying life in prison's just fine. Just fine. But for the record, good and early, we said death penalty is not something we believe. But truly, just to your comment, I think the thing to take note of is the justice system in the United States is one which interprets everything quite a bit and gets real loose when it doesn't have precedent. There is no precedent for this. So they're going to choose to tailor the sentence for whatever will keep the country calm. Christy Zolkowski, I really want to know, could we exile Trump if convicted and he's not sent to prison? You know, as tempting as that would be, I'd be against it. I'd be against it. It'd be passing our problem on to somebody else. I can't think of a country which I hate bad enough to inflict Trump upon them. I feel like he's our problem and we got to deal with him. Obsessive audio, engaging in treason or insurrection or giving aid and comfort disqualifies a person from holding office. Boom. That right there is what we are going to talk about next. John Doe, I knew he was in his late 70s, but didn't realize he would be up there with Feinstein in age by his second term. Yeah, you're right and I'm wrong. Did I say he was an octogenarian? That might have just been because I'm a dummy. No, he's not. He's 77. You guys are right. Still, though, he's not gonna be. Yes, I did. Okay, he's not gonna be around forever. What am I talking about? He's evil. That's like it does like the opposite of Star Wars. It sustains people on Earth. He's gonna be around well into the 23rd century. John Doe, we really need to set up the infrastructure for more younger people to get into office. Oh my God. Yeah, or just new people. Honestly, I don't care if they're young. We just need new people in office. In fact, I think somebody that's hear me. All right, just hear me out on this for a second, y'all. This is why I like the live show. Just talking with folks. Specifically folks who are interested in this stuff. I like the idea of somebody going out, living a full life, and having a career, and having to be an American for their working years. And then, after that, saying, I have some notes. This didn't have to be that hard. Or there was a lot of wasted opportunities here or there. I want to go affect the structure of this country. And then going into office and getting elected and doing just that. I like that in principle. The thing I'm against is somebody getting into office when they're 30 and staying in office until they're 99 and having a hand in the shaping of the country for longer than they had to live in it as a regular Joe. That's really where I have beef. So for your old pal Jake, it's less about, I mean, yeah, truth, we do need also young folks in there. I don't want to make it seem like that's not also a problem. That is, but I think it's a problem that's an inevitable consequence of these careerist politicians. I think we need a more competitive culture, basically. Which means, if we're going to the advice section, it's the same as it always is. Heavy use of the primary. We can achieve something like what both of us are trying to accomplish, or what both of us say we would prefer to see. In your case, generally younger politicians. In my case, just new politicians. Same things achieved by heavy use of the primary. We'll get the occasional upset that'll end a winning streak that will add up over time. We'll have generally newer folks. Or Biden. Yeah, youngest senator, oldest president. Okay, I'm on his team. But this is like the only scenario where I can imagine that. Christ Jesus. All right, you know what? Not sure which one. All right, why not? Domenico, if you're out there. Oh, not yet. There we go. Domenico, if you're out there, that thing you showed me from Politics Girl was fascinating. I'm not going to play it tonight. I'm not sure if I put it in the description. But it was good, and we will talk about it. Had to say that. I interrupted myself while responding to Domenico earlier. I feel bad. Hey, y'all. Bo's back. And further evidence is now here of the thing, the split that we've been talking about. One of the signs that we are going to be done dealing with this punk Donald Trump is that the GOP will abandon him. I don't mean all Republicans. I mean the old guard. You know, the type of gross dudes that sit in a smoke-filled room. I realize the irony of my saying that. That sit in a smoke-filled room and decide our fates. I'm talking about folks like the Federalist Society. Look them up sometime. Look at all the nightmare bills that they got started. That's old school GOP, baby. And for them to turn on Trump, somebody of that level, of that old school Republican nature, that would be a big deal. Oh, hey, here's Bo the Fifth Cow.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again.
Howdy, Bo.
So today we are going to talk about Trump versus some members of the Federalist Society. That's not a sentence I ever thought I would say. If you are not familiar with this particular organization, they're conservative, like super conservative. But some of their members, who are apparently constitutional scholars, have made the case and put out an argument determining that Trump can't be, run for, become basically anything to do with being president again. And they are relying on the 14th Amendment, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, to make this argument.
Love it so far.
Now, there are two stories combined in this.
First, let me just say for the record, remember, this is the Federalist Society. And I'm going to say the same thing about them that I said about other Republicans when they turned on Trump. They know how to hit proper. They know how to hit hard and where it hurts. It's like it is the reason. Let me try this again. It is one of the reasons. I would say maybe the doesn't matter. The point is, it's why it's good that lefties do infight the way we do. We keep each other honest against this stuff. Republicans don't do that. They follow Reagan's, as he phrased it, 11th commandment, saying, "Oh, you don't, yada yada yada." But they store all this stuff up, and they watch Democrats do a terrible job of holding them to account, and then they ask themselves, why didn't you hit us here where it would have been devastating? So when they turn on each other, they hit hard, and it's wonderful to see. But here's the issue. This is the Federalist Society. They haven't exactly seen the light. They're protecting their own power. So don't get too excited over the things they recommend, because they're still Republicans. It's a criminal party. They are probably not going to be recommending something that necessarily complies with an honest interpretation of the law. That said, it is the attitude that I want to see from these folks. Good. Bo, break it down.
One is the argument itself, which is unique. And it's not as wild as some people are kind of making it out to be. And then the other is something that we have talked about on the channel as something that was going to happen. And this is kind of it happening in a super high-profile way. Okay, so we'll talk about the argument first. What are they saying? To sum it up, they're saying that Section 3 is self-executing, operating as an immediate disqualification from office without the need for additional action by Congress. It can and should be enforced by every official, state or federal, who judges qualifications. Makes sense. Now, if you don't know, Section 3 basically prohibits anybody who engaged in or gave aid and comfort to an insurrection or rebellion. That's what it does. It prohibits them from holding certain offices. Okay? And the argument says that Trump falls into this, and the only way that he could actually run for office again, be qualified to run for office again, would be 2/3 of Congress gave him amnesty for his actions related to January 6th. Okay. Basically, what they're saying by saying it's self-executing, they're saying it's like a 30-year-old who decides to run for president. They're disqualified because the Constitution says you have to be 35. No further action needs to be taken. The election officials look at the age and say, nope, you're not 35. You can't run. Congress doesn't need to get involved in this, right? It makes sense. The thing is, being 35, that's pretty objective. That's a fact. That's something you either are 35 or older, or you're not. Now, they say that it is unquestionably fair to say that Trump engaged in the January 6th insurrection through both his actions and his inaction. Okay, I know what I believe, and I know what I would say, 85% of the people watching this channel believe in regards to that. And they would definitely say that that is a fair characterization of what occurred. Okay.
Oh, let's just let the man finish his point. 1 second.
But if you accept this argument just wholly, if you totally accept the argument being presented, that means that state officials, maybe even local officials, get to determine what counts as aid and comfort to an insurrection or rebellion.
There it is.
With no real check on it, because it's self-executing. They just determine that on their own. That seems like a really bad idea.
Give us the
I want you to
example.
picture an official in Texas saying that, Biden didn't secure the border, obviously giving aid and comfort to that insurrection coming across our border every day. He can't run. He can't hold office.
Okay, fair point. I would say I'm halfway in between these. I actually think they have a good point. I actually think that the Federalist, it's weird to say, the Federalist Society makes a good point when they say that it's self-enforcing, however they phrase that. It's not a question, in my opinion, of the normal orders being given, I guess. Like when I ask the question, who decides blank, I'm not asking really who determines whether thing A or B happened. I'm asking the question, who sends the troops? who says, well, because I say A or B happened, these cops are going to make sure that we react accordingly to what I just said is the reality. In other words, if a prosecutor says A happened and that's a crime, they don't decide that. They decide to try to make their case to a judge. And the judge decides that because the judge can then order the cops to go throw somebody in prison. This is not that. This is not that. There's no question over how it will be enforced. This is a simple yes or no issue. 14th Amendment, Section 3, did the thing happen? If the answer is yes, there's no question about how we read. You cannot run for office. So why I'm halvesies is it's not just something we can say happened. That's where you get that old-fashioned GOP bullshittery in there. No, we can't just all look at each other and say, is this the lie we're going to go with? Is this the story we're going to use to just charge ahead and do the things we want to do? They're offering to us, those who are the lawful folks in this country, they're offering to us their tactics. We can't take them because, that's what got us into this mess to begin with, allowing that kind of behavior. However, we really ought to get this question answered once and for all. And I think Jack Smith is accomplishing just exactly that in court. And if the actual, let's be real, not all the charges related to January 6th have been leveled yet. They have been handled in such a way by Jack Smith, not Merrick Garland at all. Ooh, we're going to come back to that guy after this portion of things is said and done. But Jack Smith has handled it perfectly, and he may yet, in the course of the case that is now in court, he may yet address that specific issue. We're going to keep a hairy eyeball on the timeline here. I would like this decided long enough ahead of the election to give Republicans a chance to put up a real candidate for office. I don't think they'll be able to. I think the party is irreparably broken. But we will have to get that 14-3 thing decided soon. Soon in a historical sense, I guess. Within the next year, let's say that. We're going to have to get it decided. And it will have to be, we're going to have to find out where you officially and fairly determine if it happened, and then officially and fairly determine it. But fantastic to see that this guy's normal collaborators have turned on him.
He won't be on the ballot.
Boom.
That's not a slippery slope. That's just applying it to a different scenario. Something that many people would say would be unquestionably fair. Particularly when it gets to the part about inaction. I have issues with it. I don't necessarily agree with its or disagree with its sentiment and what it's trying to say. I think that there are issues with the argument itself when it comes to just, well, it's self-executing. It is, but this is something where there has to be a finding of fact. This isn't like, are you a natural born citizen? Yes or no. Or are you 35 or older? This is a little bit different. So I'm not sure that accepting this argument wholly is a great idea. Now, what's the other part of the story? We have talked for, a month or two, about how you're about to start seeing a whole bunch of conservative organizations and people distance themselves from Trump. Yeah, I'm going to say this counts. Again, I don't believe that this was actually put out by the Federalist Society, but this is their members. And this is an incredibly influential organization. And I do think that this may be another step. So you have a little bit more cover as politicians start to distance themselves from the twice impeached, thrice indicted former president.
And Bo dicing him up, nice, putting him on ice. Yes, indeed. Trump just about has lost every friend he's ever had in politics by his own doing. I mean, he's forced their hand. Yeah, it looks like the breakup continues, and if Trump is the leader of the MAGA movement, which, I think of course he is. What does that tell you about the political factions themselves? Something we've been saying from the jump is one step after that, taking as a given that these folks can't coexist forever. MAGA and the old school Republicans. Because they're, one are con artists, the other are bank robbers. Their profits, their means of gathering profits will cut into each other eventually. So they cannot keep working together forever. When that happens, it really comes down to, will MAGA come back to Republicans or not? As much as I think we have an opportunity to use populism generally as a generator of wedge issues between these two, and we should. I don't think MAGA folks are going to come on over to our side. I think we can get them to vote with us sometime. I think we can get their representatives to vote with us in Congress sometimes. Yes, we can get them to make their folks do things once they are in Congress. But as far as voting for candidates in the general election, no, I don't think we're going to get them to come over. But the GOP will get sick of losing, and they would rather just shop around their corruption. And I think progressives wouldn't take them, and Democrats would take them. And I think when that happens, that will be when the second conversation happens. I think as early as 2026, we could be having real conversations about the new two political parties being progressives and Democrats, or corporate Democrats, whatever we want to call them. I might even argue that we might not want to cede the name Democrat easily to them, but we should be clear about the fact that the left is not the same as the people who might be taking on Republican refugees. Oh, what a time, what a time. But yes, it's a huge, huge development. The Federalist Society is pure-blooded old school GOP. And to have them saying, that's it, throw this guy out, we're going to turn Republican tactics against him. We're going to just tell people something that is frankly not true, but ooh, wouldn't it be satisfying? That's a sign that they're playing the music for the guy. Rex Trek, fully toked, brother man. Wireless Mike 73, Jake, would you please read U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 3, paragraphs, well, son of a gun, you know I will, 6 and 7, and explain what it is I'm missing. Am I just blinded by bias? Whoops, I shouldn't have clicked just so soon. Am I just blinded by bias or what? Darn it. Do. I'm pulling it up. That's part of the problem. Stand by while I further pull it up. All right, I'm on congress.gov. Article 1, Section 3, Senate. Clause 1, composition. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by the legislature thereof. Wait a minute. You said clause... Oh. Paragraph 6 and 7. Okay. I'm going to have to count the paragraphs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, there's 6 and 7. Clause 6, impeachment trials. The Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. Am I reading the right thing? Just let me know that. For the record, okay. Like I said, we should just be the small kingmaker party, and the Dems can either agree with us to advance our base policy. All right, let me read this again a little clearer. Anti-corporate is putting it well. Like I said, we should just be the small kingmaker party, and the Dems can either agree with us to advance our base policy, or they can align with the GOP against us and explain their votes to the public. That's it exactly. And we achieve that through the heavy use of the primary. Absolutely. And wireless mic. So I am reading the correct thing. Okay. I guess I don't understand what the question is. What you tell me what you think you're not understanding about it. I guess I just don't understand. It looks like it's talking about impeachment trials. and impeachment judges. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, punishment, according to law. I think I might know your question. If you're talking about wasn't Trump impeached, the answer is yes, and the English language sucks. All right, we get our spelling actually quite good, but we need more words. Impeachment, in the case that it is used referring to Trump and Nixon, unfortunately doesn't refer to conviction. They weren't convicted when they were impeached. They simply had articles of impeachment filed against them, which we call impeachment, as a way to make the political party who was weaker at the time feel better. But he wasn't booted out. He wasn't properly impeached. In fact, neither was Clinton. We still say they were impeached because they had the articles filed against them. But they weren't removed from office by the impeachment. The only person who would have, if it would have gone to a vote, was Nixon. And he's a conservative, so he ran rather than face the music. He resigned. Trump should have. Clinton's was ridiculous. I don't like Bill Clinton, but his was ridiculous. It was for lying under oath. And you know what? No, I take that back. Clinton should have been as well. Fuck him. But Trump should have. He should have been kicked out. He should have been kicked out over the Ukraine nonsense. If he would have, I doubt very much that Russia would be there now, because we would have shown ourselves to be a strong ally. Instead, we showed the instability of the United States. We showed the vulnerability of Ukraine. And now kids are getting killed. That's reality. Because we couldn't hold this punk to account. Mad as hell about that. But the reality is, in answer to the question I'm hoping was what you were asking, he wasn't convicted. He wasn't, the impeachment was not followed through on. So it won't apply to his running for office in the future. And we can thank Mitch McConnell for that, by the way. Yeah, and the anti-corporatists, the Senate could have voted to bar him, if I recall correctly. Wireless mic, but doesn't it say it doesn't require anything but impeachment? Let me look real close. The Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, they show... real quick, oath or affirmation. Fun fact, somebody can ask you if you swear or affirm. If you're non-religious, the correct thing is to say you affirm. Now you know. Because you don't want to lie. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside. No person shall be convicted, and no person shall be convicted without the sole occurrence of 2/3 of the judgment case. No disqualification to hold any... No. I don't see that it... yeah. I don't see that it says that, unfortunately. But maybe it does, and I'm just not reading it well enough live. Truth be told, I'm not great at scanning things, and attempting to do it live isn't doing so good. But I'll look closer. Maybe there's more to say to that. But in short, my understanding is that because he didn't get the conviction, none of the rest of that applies. Sucks. And I will double check too. If I'm wrong, I'll do a whole segment on it. Let's see. Diana Dean, hello. I better go back to the beginning of the pod and catch up. Good to see you. Well, when you get here, I understand you've been kicking butt across the pond, and I'm proud of you. Well done, Diana Dean. She's been contacting folks about issues she cares about and generally making the world a better place. I got to tell you, folks, energy is something I think we all have a finite supply of these days. But when I find out that y'all are out there writing emails and telling and making phone calls and telling your politicians how you want things run, I feel like Popeye after just eating the spinach. I feel fantastic, and just about nothing makes my day better than hearing that. So well done, Diana Dean. Hey, we talked about how Trump's cases were going. Let's talk about how they are going. Ooh, baby. It's a lot of fun. So let's get our measure of Chutkin, huh? Weird that we can say this, but every time a former president goes into a criminal trial, there's that period where we're trying to get the measure of their judge. We start to appreciate, I guess, how important a judge really is. We now, I think, have a pretty good idea of who Tanya Chutkin is. And she's the sort of judge who does not give a damn what your name is, what your bank is. She doesn't care who your friends are. She appears to care about following the letter and intent of the law. Isn't that beautiful? Ladies and gentlemen, as brought to us by MSNBC, some Tanya Chutkin.
We're following breaking news in the election interference case facing the disgraced, twice impeached, thrice indicted ex-president.
And diced. So nice, we put him on ice. I love that line. Twice impeached. Wait a minute. Twice impeached, thrice indicted. Everybody's saying it. I can't get enough.
Came on air, Judge Tanya Chutkin issuing a protective order in that case. By now, the Trump team's legal playbook is no secret. Invoke the First Amendment, delay, and try the case in the media. It is their calling card. But today, Trump's legal shenanigans may have met their match in the form of Judge Tanya Chutkin, who signaled she was having none of it. Today was the first hearing before Judge Chutkin in the 2020 election interference case against Donald Trump. Kind of preview of how she'll run her court and this case. And in deciding whether to grant special counsel Jack Smith's request for a protective order limiting what the disgraced ex-president can and cannot say publicly about the case, Judge Chutkin appeared to cut through many of Trump's typical talking points like a hot knife through butter. On those First Amendment protections the Trump team is so fond of citing, Judge Chutkin said this, quote, Mr. Trump, like every American, has a First Amendment right to free speech, but that right is not absolute. Adding that without a protective order, the disclosure of discovery materials could lead to witnesses being harassed or otherwise interfering with a fair trial. What about the fact that Trump is running for president? Judge Chutkin did not mince words on that either, saying, quote, this is a criminal trial. I cannot and I will not factor into my decisions the effect it's going to have on a political campaign for either side. Quote, I intend to ensure that your client is afforded all the rights he's entitled to. The existence of a political campaign is not going to have any bearing on my decision. I intend to keep politics out of this.
What a concept. What a concept. I don't give who you are, in other words. No, I don't care who your opponent is. I don't care about your whining here. I don't care about your whining there. Irrelevant. We're talking about the facts. Is your phone down? Is your email down? That's okay. We still got the facts. Come on. I love Tanya Chutkin. That is exactly the kind of language I want to hear out of a judge. That is the kind of intent I want to hear out of a judge. I don't care if they're dealing with a traffic ticket. I don't care if they're dealing with a coup. We are here to drop the nonsense, find out the facts, and then decide guilt. Maybe there is none. We'll see. This nonsense, though, this pony show, not going to work. Beautiful.
And on Trump's habit of using Truth Social to test drive potential defenses, Judge Chutkan had this to say, quote, "Your client's defense is supposed to happen in this courtroom, not on the internet. And to the extent your client wants to make statements on the internet, they always have to yield to witness security and witness safety." Adding, quote, "I could see the possibility for a lot of problems here." Indeed. Now, we should point out Judge Chutkan.
You know, I'll be honest, I just popped on because I wanted to keep that gross picture of Trump up a little longer, but that's not fair to you. Okay.
Did not grant the sweeping protective order special counsel Jack Smith had asked for. Both sides got some of what they were seeking, but make no mistake. In her words and in her demeanor on the bench today, Judge Chutkan put Trump and his legal team on notice that she did not come to play. Just moments ago, Judge Chutkan issued that protective order. We've assembled an expert team to break it all down, but I want to read one section that seems aimed squarely at reining in Donald Trump. Quote, "Defense counsel may show or provide sensitive materials to the defendant as necessary to assist in preparation of the defense. And defense counsel is not required to be present while the defendant reviews sensitive materials. However, if defense counsel does show or provide sensitive materials to the defendant, defense counsel may not allow the defendant to write down any personally identifying information that is contained in the sensitive materials. If the defendant takes notes regarding sensitive materials, defense counsel must inspect those notes to ensure that the defendant has not copied down personally identifying information."
In other words, make sure this motherfucker doesn't break the law, lawyers, and now you're legally on the hook to make sure he doesn't, because you haven't done a good enough job of making sure he doesn't break the law. You dumb motherfuckers. You think they went with like a dry rub or maybe I don't know, maybe just some garlic seasoning. My point is, she roasted him. She cooked that motherfucker in legal language, and it made me very happy. It made me very, very happy. Let's let it keep going. Just beautiful.
Moreover, during any time that the defendant reviews sensitive materials outside of defense counsel's presence, the defendant must not have access to any device capable of photocopying, recording, or otherwise replicating the sensitive materials, including a smart cellular device. And that is where we start this hour. Let's bring in MSNBC legal analyst Lisa Rubin, who is inside the courthouse for us today.
Okay, couple of things.
Also joining.
Now, we don't need this lady to say who's in the middle. That's our man, Harry Litman, often on the Midas Touch network. And I don't know who the last lady is, but I do know her earrings and glasses are rad as hell, and they deserve praise. But yes, sir, this is a great lineup. And we're going to listen to what they have to say. I'm interested. But first, boy, oh boy, oh boy. Was that not a fantastic thing to see the judge who is going to handle the coup case say she's actually treating him, as though she's been conscious on planet Earth over the last 2 years. This dude's been threatening people. This dude's been sharing sensitive information. This dude has been making a mockery of our court system. And part of that mockery is the fact that he has done these things and not had to answer to the judge. It's the sort of thing that makes you wonder, why in the hell have I ever paid a parking ticket? If you could just slap the court in the face over and over and experience, just not do what the court says and experience no consequences. Why the hell am I not doing anything. The Republicans put all this work to say if it can happen to Trump, it can happen to you. And I've been waiting for it to happen to Trump, and it hasn't. So I've been thinking maybe it can't happen to me at all. They know people are starting to feel that way. And they're finally responding accordingly. Now, Tanya Chutkan hasn't had an opportunity until now. I'm not saying that to respond to this stuff. I'm not saying that she would have a year ago gone easy on him, blah, blah, blah. No. But we've been dealing with the fact that no judge has yet had the chutzpah to treat Trump normally. Not cruelly, just normally. And this is the judge, your old pal Jake at least, has been waiting for. Tanya Chutkan. I'm gonna put up a poster of her. I'm gonna purchase my childhood home and then go to my room and put up all the old posters. I don't remember what they were. I'll do my best. Just so that I can put up a poster of Tanya Chutkan next to the rest of them. Because she's earned that level of honor. All right, let's hear what the gang has to say.
As former Deputy Assistant Attorney General and former U.S. Attorney Harry Litman and national investigative reporter for The Washington Post, Kara Lenning, is here. Harry, shortly before we came on air, you had Judge Chutkan issuing her protective order. I believe you've had a chance to look through it. What jumps out to you?
The extreme solicitude for witnesses. She's making very clear that he can't be in any way intimidated.
All right, Harry Litman, I just talked you up pretty decently there, and I gotta tell you, pal, I don't like that you use the word solicitude. All right, you're gonna use that word, solicitude. Now I gotta look it up. Care or concern for someone or something. I was touched by his solicitude. Okay. I wish it wasn't necessary to do that, Harry. But okay, let's make your point. I'm sorry.
Intimidating or even
let's try that again.
Had a chance to look through it.
Let's try that again now that we know what the word is. Christ.
What jumps out to you?
The extreme solicitude for witnesses. She's making very clear that he can't be in any way intimidating or even demeaning them. And she put everything that has to do with witnesses in the compartment of sensitive information, not just grand jury witnesses, anyone that the government has interviewed. That's the first thing. And that the second thing is, even as she gave a nugget to the Trump defense team of not defining everything as sensitive materials, she took it away by making clear that anything the government was concerned about in terms of both impairing the jury pool and also going after witnesses would violate the order anyway. So I think, as you say, Alicia, she has put them on notice and given a verdict that is, I would say, 60-40 for the government.
Real quick. One of the reasons this is important is so that we can combat irony of ironies, so that we can combat accusations of unfair treatment. Right now, good and early, they're establishing what the boundaries are. So that if, and let's be honest, when Trump violates them, we can say, this was telegraphed. We said, don't do X or Y will happen. We said that a week ago. You've been reminded. I assume he's going to be reminded. And you did it. So now Y is going to happen. Problem I see here didn't really spell out that I saw what Y was, but okay. Okay, fair enough. It was also just tickled that Obsessive Audio had the exact same thought I did. Is that a real word? Turns out it is. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that Harry Litman invented it yesterday and paid somebody off to put it in the dictionary, but oh well. Groove Dragon, $5 word, Harry, checks in the mail. Anti-corporatist, what did you expect, Jake? He's the American equivalent of a solicitor. Yeah. John Doe, we're just going to have to put in work during the 2024 election in swing states. Don't think anything is going to stop Trump from running. Oh, that's true. That's true. Groove Dragon, LOL, maybe only $2. Oh, God. Obsessive Audio. Anyone else would be in pretrial detention right now. It's so true. Wireless Mike on that Constitution thing. As I read it, just the impeachment should disqualify him. Then he would still be subject to conviction after the fact. I mean, it's an interesting point. Let me say this. I don't know. I don't want to say that the wording is definitely one way or another. Just because for me to truly understand anything, I've got to reread it maybe a baker's dozen times, which just wouldn't be entertaining on air. I will though, because that's an interesting point. I think the larger point though is that after a president has been impeached, it's wild that we are still even considering the guy. Like, I don't want to just set aside and give him a freebie if it turns out that we're ignoring a major rule that would make all of this other stuff basically moot because the guy isn't allowed to run. I mean, you're right to comb through the rules and look for that stuff. And sure, let's follow up on it. I shall. But I think the larger point of, my God, what a state we're in, one of the reasons this might not have even been considered, why they might not have spelled it out, because why the hell would a guy lose an election after getting impeached and then still be a candidate? That's insane. What is the matter with the American people, for God's sake? Related across the pond, I don't want to see Boris Johnson have a political comeback. We need to start learning our lessons, for God's sake. I'm begging us. Start learning our lessons. All right, Harry. Keep spitting that fire, baby.
At one point, Judge Chutkan seemed to nod to the classified documents case, saying, quote, he, Trump, has a habit of taking documents he shouldn't take. Walk us through some of the conditions of this protective order and the rules around who can see the documents from Trump's team and where and when.
So the people who can see documents that are marked as sensitive, Alicia, are people who are employed by Trump's team. And that was a point of contention today because John Lauro, who's one of President Trump's lawyers, essentially said, we are the David in this fight, and the Department of Justice and the Special Counsel's Office with 60 lawyers at their disposal, they are the Goliaths. And we are going to need volunteer lawyers, people that we don't pay, to get through all of that discovery. That didn't go anywhere with Judge Chutkan. She said, by your definition, Mr. Lauro, people who are unindicted co-conspirators in this case could look at sensitive materials. So Judge
Again, great use of the Justice Department, of the court system. Great use by the court system. There we go. Of fairness, and they're just not prepared for it. They're not prepared for. You saw when there was old school Republicans attempting to be on our side of things. They're just not. They're totally unfamiliar with the idea of principles, of saying, like, okay, but the principle of the thing would mean that X or Y could happen. In this case, they're saying, okay, but if what you say is allowed, then you could use that as a way to just have anybody look at these things. We can't have that, obviously. But also, I want to note, I don't think it's a coincidence that he said we're like David, as in the guy who would become king. Look, I don't want to get too into the weeds with biblical interpretation if that's not your thing. But that little analogy, I think, was meant for two groups. One, the judge, adds a simple on its face analogy, small guy versus little guy, but also for the evangelicals that are following this, a little wink to having to do to having to accept a flawed messenger of God, so to speak. I think that was campaigning as much as legal filing. But that really is pure wild speculation. So I guess ignore it also.
Chutkan was really putting the screws,
or, take it with a big fat grain of Dead Sea salt,
to the Trump team today. And I would go further than Harry. I would say it's more than 60-40 for the government because of one of the things he just said. All of the things the government cared about is already defined as sensitive materials. And Tom Wyndham, one of the government's lawyers, stood up today and said the vast majority of materials that will be produced to President Trump, those are sensitive materials as well, Alicia.
Lisa, I want to ask you about what sounded like a stark rebuke from Judge Chutkan at the very end. Quote, I caution you and your client to take special care in your public statements about this case. I will take whatever measures are necessary to safeguard the integrity of these proceedings. Even arguably ambiguous statements from parties or their counsel, if they can be reasonably interpreted to intimidate witnesses or to prejudice potential jurors, can threaten the process. The more a party makes inflammatory statements about this case, which could taint the jury pool, the greater the urgency will be that we proceed to trial quickly. Lisa.
Ooh, I was going to criticize. I was going to say, look, you keep saying, you better not, this, that, and the other thing. But I wasn't hearing the or else, which is all that matters to these folks. Or else what? There it is. She hit him with the thing he fears most that she can actually do. If we're being real with you, I think there is a question amongst judges over whether or not they actually can imprison Trump ahead of his trial. You know my thoughts on that. Yes, I think we need to be very literal about the fact that he is no different than the rest of us. And if we behaved this way, exactly as you said, he'd be in pre-trial lockup. I say this just to back you up a little bit more here. I say this as somebody that wrote about this all the time. All the time. Defendant gets their bail revoked because they couldn't stop running their mouth. It is incredibly common. But this has never happened before. They don't want to look too brutal. And the reality is these judges have a sense of how open and shut these cases are. And so they are hesitant to make it look like it's a show trial. Because if they just absolutely destroy the defense, or rather the defense is just absolutely destroyed in front of them, they're going to have to call it that way. So they are going out of their way to be forgiving. But that said, Trump, his main tactic, the only thing he has approaching an actual legal tactic that we have been able to discern is to delay things. And she just said, more you run your mouth, the faster this trial is happening, as a matter of safety. And god damn, do I love Tanya Chutkan. Let's hear what the commentators got to say.
That she knows who she is dealing with here.
She does. She absolutely knows who she's dealing with. And she's also, Alicia, drawing a distinction between the protective order, which governs the use of discovery or evidence in the case, and the obligations that are incumbent on Trump and his lawyers not to intimidate witnesses or tamper with the jury pool, irrespective of whether those threats actually concern evidence or not. She's essentially saying to them, your client has obligations under his conditions of a release. He's a free person right now because of those conditions. And if he intimidates witnesses, tampers with the jury pool, shares evidence with people who might still be under investigation, or does anything else to threaten the fair administration of justice in my watch, that's not going to fly with me.
Harry, I want to underline a part of this. If they can be reasonably interpreted to intimidate witnesses, under those contours, does Trump's post about if you come after me, I'll come after you, does that fly?
Was that to me?
Yes, Harry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, I think it falls totally flat. Look.
I adore Harry Litman so very much. And I also want to say, Niecy Nash says, huh? Love it. Get him, Harry.
I agree with basically everything Lisa is saying. And one more point. She treated Trump like a truant child, the most sort of galling thing of all. Obviously, he starts at a level of mistrust. So he starts with a record, as it were. Now, there will be exactly this debate. The reason there's something for him is not just what he got, but there will be a next level where they argue about terms, and then she imposes something more strict, and then at the end of the day, the big hammer she has, of course, but she doesn't want to deploy it early or at all if she can help it, is putting him in jail. But they know that at the end of the day, it's her courtroom, it's her witnesses to worry about, it's her process to take account of, and she will, I think she showed today, be unafraid if he pushes her to the wall of responding with the most severe sanction.
It's not my phrase. I'm going to borrow it anyway. Boy, you love to see it. I mean, I kind of chickened out, if I'm honest, when the very first Trump indictment came down. I was just gonna put out a reaction video of just wordlessly getting down, but I didn't want to subject you to that, to this bowl of oatmeal shaken on camera for too long. Sometimes I can't help myself, but in not putting it out, I feel that I failed to properly stress what a different era we have entered into. And it's been warming up for a minute, but I think I just heard the bell because it's done. It's here. It's ready. This is Trump being treated appropriately for his actions. We can and we have. We can talk about and we have talked about how we should have a serious look at the reasons it took so long to get here. It was not until other people in power were threatened. It wasn't until the establishment itself was in danger that these threats were taken seriously. We'll deal with that. We will. We do have to go one thing at a time. This thing's first. And regardless of how long it took us to get here, baby, we're here. We're here. Enjoy this. Saturdays for the foreseeable future are going to be real fun. Because Trump's ass is grass. Diana Dean, I just went back to the beginning. So now this is out of sequence, but the idea of getting there plus arguing strongly against the death penalty, what would owning the libs look like? Ha ha! That's a good point. I wonder how committed they are to that particular mentality. Groove Dragon, the oven is preheated. Time to cook this turkey. Ooh, borrowing that. Groove Dragon, you know it. John Doe, the things we love to see, it. That's it exactly. Okay. Actually, that the anti-corporatist. Actually, that was the oven being up to temp for my pizza. Also good. We'll take it. Dawned on me. I don't think the law on cameras should be changed in federal courts. Just my opinion. I agree. As a matter of fact, we talked about what you can do about that. Now I'll jump back to that for a second here. Let me brush this salt off and write your representative and tell them that exact same thing. You can copy and paste your own comment. Find your representative with the link I'm going to drop. And just tell them that, because there's two opportunities. Number one, the court system themselves in September has an opportunity to change this rule in light of recent developments. But also, the House and Senate could just pass a rule saying, no, this trial is important. We all have an interest in it. We're gonna watch it happen as it happens. We're all gonna keep our eyes on it. Red or blue, everybody's got a reason to want to see it, either to ensure that their boy is getting a fair trial, or to ensure that their boy is getting a fair trial. So write your representative. Put a little pressure on there. We got a couple of months. The more times we can write in telling the people that represent us what our opinion is about whether or not this trial should be televised, the more likely it is to be televised. And by the way, if it is televised, then we are much more likely to have the side that was right, and we'll find out who it is in the course of the trial, get recognized as such by the other side. So no matter where you fall on that political spectrum, understand that if you're right, you will likely be proven so in court, and everybody should see that. The anti-corporatists. No, seriously, I hadn't eaten since lunch. It was preheated to 400. That thing's going to cook quick. Good God. 400? No, for a pizza, that makes sense, actually. I take it back. That is, that's fair enough. You do have me thinking pretty hard about pizza now. I'm not going to lie. About 40% of my mental processing power just got taken over by the lizard brain. And part of me is like, what's this about pizza? But the other 60%, it's dedicated to Brian Tyler Cohen. Here's the thing. This beautiful otter found a clip that he needs full credit for. Because I saw this, I saw Brian Tyler Cohen discussing our boy, well-known sex trafficker Matt Gaetz. And not only could I not find the actual clip he brought up, at least not on a site that I could play easily with OBS, but Brian Tyler Cohen makes some interesting points about what Matt Gaetz is saying here. So the credit's got to go to the man. Even though he's on MSNBC now, he doesn't need your old pal Jake helping him. He's still going to get it. Let's have a look. This is Brian Tyler Cohen. And we talked about how court system is treating Trump a little bit more seriously. We talked about how the old school Republican establishment is ditching him. Let's look at who's sticking with Trump. Who's still on his side? Is it honorable company? Is it smart company? Is it the sort of folks that you would want on your team? Are they the folks that you would call your best in mensch? Here's Matt Gaetz praising Trump, brought to us by Brian Tyler Cohen.
Mr. President, I cannot stand these people that are destroying our country, that are opening our borders, that are weaponizing our federal law enforcement against patriotic Americans who love this nation as we should. We are having a great time at the fair. We love standing with you, but we know that only through force do we make any change in a corrupt town like Washington, D.C. And so to all my friends here in Iowa, when you see them come for this man, know that they are coming for our movement, and they are coming for all of us. And as hard as you see him work, I need you working 10 times harder, 100 times harder. We're going to win Iowa. We're going to march to the nomination.
let me get this straight. Trump gets indicted in part for his scheme to use violence as part of his effort to steal the 2020 election, which he swears he didn't do. And as he is pending trial for exactly that issue, he shows up on stage next to Matt Gaetz, who says they need to take back D.C. by force, which is a very thinly veiled call for violence. Am I getting that right? Look, I'm not here to defend Donald Trump in court. There are apparently a few attorneys who have little enough self-respect and expectation of being paid who are willing to do that. But I will just say that if your defense is that you never intended for there to be any violence as a means to help you steal the last election, then maybe, just maybe, do not plant yourself on stage next to a guy who continues to advocate for the exact thing that you claim to have never wanted. Just...
Oh boy. We're gonna need that answered for. I think this might even be revisited on Monday. I don't know yet, but we're surely gonna have to make Matt Gaetz, forget Donald Trump for a second. Matt Gaetz, he's gonna have to answer for that. Only way you can do this is by force. It's not enough for a reporter to find a tiny shred of their backbone and say, "Hey, did you say this thing? Well, what did you mean? What did you mean when you said that? Oh, it didn't sound like you were talking about voting to me, though." Okay. No. We can't. It's not enough. We know what that motherfucker just said. We know the context in which he said it. The stochastic terrorism, I understand that we need to handle Trump first, but we also just cannot let these folks get free shots. If this has to be a situation where Matt Gaetz does not suffer real punishment for this, but he's the first person that gets a letter saying, just so you know, the FBI thinks that was stochastic terrorism, and we're choosing not to charge you, you shit. But we are letting you know that if you say something again, what you just said will be added to that when we file in court, because you're yelling fire in a crowded theater. We have to respond to that. But on a lighter note, how lovely is it that that is the level of dummy that Trump is left with? Is it scary that they feel that their only possible option for holding on to power, or God help us taking power, is resorting to this kind of tactic? Yeah, it's a scary thing, man. But it's also a sign that they know they're losing. If they thought they could win without that smoke, would they risk it? Hell no, they're not brave people. It's a good sign. They're scared. They are rejects because they've been rejected by the American people. Rejected in 2020. Pretty firmly rejected in 2022, given that their red wave fizzled. And if they are rejected for a third time in 2024, and they're rejected hard enough, that is the end for a lot of them. For a lot of them, it's the end of their freedom. For all of them, it's the end of them as a serious political force in the world. Good. Snixabia, have you seen that video where Biden says you can't tell fire? It's awesome. I haven't. Biden saying you can't. All right. You can't yell fire, I'm sorry. I see one from, oh, no. No, I haven't seen it is the short answer, but I'll look for it. Christy Zilkowski. Trump and Gates actually look slimy. Like if you accidentally brushed up against them, you'd get sticky. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. He meant yell. I just read that wrong. Groove Dragon. I bet it was. Yeah, it was supposed to be yell. That's my. I do typos all the time. I'm not trying to bust your balls. I'm sorry, but no, I haven't seen it, and I will look for it. John Doe, otter in this context makes sense. I've been weirdly sexualizing Brian Tyler Cohen on this channel for such a long time. I don't even know why I do it. It's just I enjoy it. You know, I think he's a good chap. The anti-corporatist sounds like Matt Gaetz, but looks like Rachel Maddow. Maddow and Gaetz have a very similar barber. The anti-corporatist, I definitely need a seven-figure retainer to represent Trump. Yes, wholeheartedly agreed. MSM is probably busy. Is too busy playing both sides. It's awful. Fair. Christy Zilkowski, not enough money in the world for me. Also fair. The anti-corporatist, I thought that maybe he was making fun of Crowder and Jim Jordan, good spelling of Jim there, for saying where there's smoke, there's fire. Okay, yell fire. I think it's old, but it's surfacing. Fair enough. Snixabia. And John Doe and y'all are good eggs. I'll definitely look for it and play it if I find it and I can work it in. But I will say this, folks. It hadn't just been a long week. It's been a long, however many years it's been since 2016. I think folks around the world have been dealing with crazier and crazier stuff, and it can't all be put on Trump, but it undeniably got kicked off with that psychopath. And through hard work, and most importantly, the people giving their representatives hell, we've turned a corner. Things are actually being handled in a sane manner. It's going to be important that we hold on to the lessons we've learned, even when we don't feel them. Even when we don't feel them. There's going to be a couple of months coming up where there's a lull and everything feels safe and handled, and that's good, and we deserve that. But hold on to the lessons we learned. We've got to get used to having our cake and eating it too. We've got to get used. That's the next piece of growth for us as a species. We've got to get used to living in slightly more peaceful times while also maintaining them and maintaining our trajectory. It's not even like the plane crashed and it's fixed and now we're flying again. We're still in the crash. It looks like it's going to be a softer landing than we were worried about, and we've got about an hour of gliding ahead of us, followed by an incredibly tense landing at a highway that's been cleared out for us. Let's say that. But appreciate the gliding while we're here, and appreciate that through your efforts, things are actually starting to get under control, and some order is returning, at the very least, for God's sake, if nothing else, some order is returning to the courtroom. And Trump is terrified. I put a hand on that bug and be like, he's afraid. I'm a big dork. I apologize. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake. Thanks for joining me. We're back Monday at 9 p.m. I hope to see you there.